All right, welcome back to the Black Politics Show with Bryce and Hutch. Today we are discussing the Syrian war and the implications of that, and also a bit of MAGA versus the H-1B visa via Vivek and Elon. So I will let you kick it off with the Syrian war stuff. So
Yeah, for sure. So if you haven't heard currently, um, Syria is having a bit of a military conflict, and it's really not currently. Like overall, it's been going on for about or since about 2012, and it's like a civil war. But now it has potentially come to its conclusion. Rebel fighters had outed the ruler of Syria, which was Bashar al-Assad and his family. The al-Assad family has basically been running the country of Syria since 1970, and so they're like uh, I don't want to mispronounce the name of this sect, but Alawi or something along those lines, which is a Shia sect of the Muslim religion, while the nation of Syria overall is a Sunni majority. So obviously the two between the leader and the people being the two different sects, they have been butting heads for years kind of now. Um, and so recently Syria Syria's old leader, Assad, had been kicked out by the Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, or the HTS. Um, HTS is a rebel forces group led by Ahmed al-Shara. And they, and this is where it gets interesting with the Syrian war, they're basically like a terror organization. Not, or they used to be a terror organization, and now they're like the US is kind of trying to put this like good narrative to like spin to them because of some of the past things that they did. So Shara, who is currently in charge of Syria, he's in charge of the rebel forces that just took over, basically said there's not going to be elections for 4 years and that they're reworking their relations with Russia because Syria and Russia have military relations and Russia has military bases in it. Now that this Islamic um, kind of in between period government is in play, these guys are essentially more or less through networks of money being funded by the US and Britain. So allegedly, the HTS is being supported by Ukraine soldiers who are training them and helping to arm them. Ukraine is obviously backed by US and Britain as they have been sending billions upon billions of money and weapons to Ukraine. And so you have America's money and weapons going to help a Syrian small faction group to overthrow a government. Where have we heard that before with the US involved in it? It's kind of crazy, right? And so as of today, Israel had been shooting missiles by Syria, like right outside of Damascus, trying to hit Syrian military weapon depots, essentially trying to disarm Assad's or any of Assad's remaining loyal forces. They killed 11 civilians in Syria trying to blow up this weapons operation that Assad currently had. This is important really to note because now you're seeing more of like the West putting its power to use in that area with Israel trying to out Assad's forces, the US and Great Britain through proxy trying to out Assad's forces. So then that really makes you wonder like why why is the West really supporting this leader, this new leader, Shara, and his group of people to basically run Syria? And what comes what it comes from is kind of crazy. So where I'm trying to find this real quick. So all right. HTS is a Syrian-based Sunni Islamist group that evolved from the Nusra Front. And I could be mispronouncing these words. Don't take offense if I am. Just trying to kind of convey the news and kind of some history behind it. But Nusra, the Nusra Front was Syria's former Al Qaeda branch. And you heard me correctly. Al Qaeda, like the terrorist organization that like supposedly attacked us during 9/11 and we were fighting all throughout Afghanistan. We're now openly supporting this former terror group to basically run a country for us. Um, and there's a lot of history between Al Qaeda, which was basically funded by the CIA, who have funded the prior group, the Mujahideen, who turned into Al Qaeda. Basically, the U.S. funding a bunch of his problems once again. Um, the Nusra Front was led by Abu Muhammad al Jalani, and his real name is Ahmed al Shara, the current leader of HTS, the guy they basically are handing the Syrian government's keys to. And it's just crazy how the US uses the taxpayers' money to fund these proxy wars and to basically destabilize a country's government to go to work and take over. And I guess it's all right. This whole time I've been struggling because it's hard to be like America has its own interests because of the military bases and everything, the Russian military bases in Syria and everything. But at the same time, we have always been involved in these people's politics and using our power basically to put a tight grip on a lot of those countries out there, which serves good and bad purpose. I don't know. But with the war on terror and everything that had happened to basically fund an Al Qaeda group, support an Al Qaeda leader, it's just crazy for me to even say or hear or read and see that because I remember growing up in just the war on terror and they were going crazy. Like, this guy's terrible, he should die. And then they ultimately killed the leader. I don't know, just rambling at this point, Bryson. Come save me.
So I definitely agree. So they removed the $10 million bounty off of Al-Shara's head.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and France actually raised its flag at the embassy in Damascus for like the first time in I think like what, 12 years or something like that. And so I think that it's interesting. Like I think Western countries, or at least like the European countries, are like cautiously optimistic. I think it's crazy to be optimistic to a terror group, if that makes sense, or former terror group. Um, Me personally, I don't know. I live my life on the idea that like if you show me your cars once, then that's kind of what I base my opinion off of. And yes, of course, people and groups can change. But I don't think that funding this group is wise. I think that there is probably some interest that we have in doing so for whatever reason. But I think that the US in general, I think that I don't know the full ties that they would have to either Turkey or Israel, but I feel like everything in the Middle East somehow ties back to Turkey and Israel. Like
So
we,
Turkey, we're basically fighting Turkey forces. I guess they're backing Assad, and like you have like Turkey, Russia, and like those nations kind of backing him because
mm,
um I think Assad, the old leader, like he fled the country, and I think he's in Russia right now.
which
So they're
I wouldn't be
protecting him.
surprised of, but like, or surprised about, but I don't know, it feels really weird, not gonna lie, like that we like are supporting like this regime that previously, but if you look at it, like just speaking on it, like didn't we fund what's the dude's name? Osama bin Laden's like dad or something like that, and that's why he was like really rich. So
Yeah, like basically, like we fund a lot of our problems in like the Middle East and those countries over there because like we're funding these like small groups to go destabilize the government, and then those like groups are then turning on us. You feel me? Basically using the money and weapons we gave them to then come and later come attack or fuck with us in some type of capacity. It's crazy how we continuously fund our own problems.
We fund everybody's problems, and that's the fucking issue. Like, if we could get out of everybody's problems, I feel like we could do a lot more for our own people. But that's a whole nother like issue. But I don't know, like I honestly feel like World War III has already started and we're kind of in like the preliminary stages where it's like Yemen launched rockets, on Israel, and we've got, of course, like all of the stuff that's going on in Lebanon, then the Syria stuff. It's just like I don't see this helping or supporting a terrorist group or former terrorist group being conducive to American interest in any ways. It seems like Europe and the US is being cautiously optimistic. And HTS is saying that they, want to support inclusive kind of governance and human rights and stability and all of that. Um, I think that this is going to be a disaster. And
I mean, for Syria, like HCS is like a Sunni like led group, and that's what most of the people are like Sunni. So I guess in that light, yes, it could be good for them. And from kind of what I've been seeing, they seem to support Shara at HTS. But you just know with them being in that type of position, the US is definitely going to play their hand for whatever resources or whatever type of anything they could bleed the country out of. You feel me? And so you see that divide, and you had brought up potentially World War III. I mean, we're seeing conflicts in a bunch of different nations, and you see people choosing sides. I mean, Russia and Turkey both support Syria and the previous Syrian leader. So it's just like they've chosen that side, and he quote unquote relinquished the power by leaving. But I mean, if he come back, he obviously gonna want the seat back. And so you
that's
have
so
these
true.
exactly like you have these countries picking sides, and like I don't know if this is going to be the one that kicks up a war, or if it's when we finally start fucking with China over um what's the island? I'm blanking.
The India or like the
Um
Uyghurs.
yeah. The damn, what is it? I'm blanking. But whenever we start fundamentally getting going at it with China, that's when I think you see like a World War III type of thing kick off. And I wouldn't be surprised that it comes around soon within the next year or so. I mean, Trump. I mean, it's depending on Trump really and how he decides to carry it because he did have decent relations with China and Russia. So we'll see.
I mean, it helps when you have financial ties in those countries that you want to make sure they're stable. But I think my concern with like this is so if you look at like the Shia and Sunni divide, countries that have like, mixed like Shia Sunni populations are the ones that are the most unstable. So if you look at like the Sunni majority countries, you got like Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Qatar, the UAE, Bangladesh, like these countries that are pretty solidly like stable. Indonesia has like the largest like Sunni population, but then if you look like the Shia countries, it's like Iran, Iraq. The only two out of that are like stable, like really stable, are like Bahrain and Azerbaijan. But then if you look at the countries that are like mixed, you got Syria, Afghanistan, Yemen, and Lebanon. And out of that group, I feel like Lebanon is the only one that's like had and now it's kind of like debatable because of all the stuff that's going on in southern Lebanon. But like prior to, like the last 3 months, Lebanon was the only one that like out of those three where Americans could travel to for real. So I think that it's never in like this is a whole nother tangent. Religion causes a lot of problems, but like especially when you have something so divisive, I think that it does foster instability. So like I'm not opposed to HTS, and I feel like if all of these Western governments are like, hey, we're cautiously optimistic, but we're hoping that if the rule of the people looks like what the religion of the people, then it'll be something solid. Then I'm gonna have to take their knowledge for it. They're the ones that are sitting in these meetings, all of these like politicians, not politicians, all of these security analysts and stuff. So I don't know why we're helping to fund them, but they see some type of hope. And I do think that it makes more sense, just based on kind of like the huge like Shia and Sunni divide, that hey, if these people are all, one group and they're led by that same group, or not all, of course, but like, you know what I mean, then hey, I think that it could potentially be a good thing. I
It's
think it is
just
really sad, like how the like Syria has fallen in the last 12 years. Like
mm,
Damascus was one of the like greatest. Like, it was like similar to Afghanistan in like the 70s, where it was like Damascus was seen as pretty stable and it was like a nice place to visit, yada yada. And then of course it got turned upside down by these like wars that were going on. So I think it sucks, and I think that everybody around the world should want stability, whether you're European or you're American or whatnot, because it impacts all of us. So Europe, of course, has had that huge like Syrian migrant crisis, and so there a lot of European countries are getting pissed off having to take in these migrants. The Americans, of course, I don't want any more money going to these like wars that aren't helping the United States and the people within the greater United States. And then also the people that live there deserve stability and not to have to, deal with the bullshit of war. So I like
like as of today, like I think like there's been like 30,000 people that have returned to the Syrian nation. And like you said, like they're optimistically like funding HTS and like supporting them and training them military wise and everything. But this guy just like he only broke relations with Al Qaeda in like 2016. That's I'm not gonna say recent. That's pretty recent. I mean,
that's pretty recent to me, not gonna lie.
you feel me? Like it leaves like a blank because I guess he serves a purpose now, and they're like, well, we could get him out when we need to. But what if he then turns around and points those weapons at us or starts using it against us? Because he doesn't want to give up power. He's already said that there's not going to be elections for 4 years, and he's saying they have to do a census and see who's really Syrian and all this other shit. But it's like we're putting a lot of faith in a group that has already showed us their hand and we have already had issues with in the past, even though he had just technically stepped away from the former major Al Qaeda group. Like it's still a former Al Qaeda group. Like they don't like us. And so I don't know. Like you said, we are super focused overseas and everybody else's problems that obviously people at home are struggling financially and you feel me health wise as well. So it's just whenever we stop funding our problems overseas and start focusing on the nation domestically, I think you'll see a great I'm not gonna say like great step towards world peace, but I think you see a lot less of these international issues and you see a lot more people at home, you feel me, getting jobs and fighting some of these things that we've been fighting for since the start of the Biden administration, really. And people are putting a lot of hope in Trump and Trump's administration. I don't know. They ran on a type of anti-war rhetoric, like he didn't want to fight. He's going to build relations with these countries. And I really think, and it's crazy to fucking say. It's so fucking crazy to say. But like, Trump might be our only hope and like not seeing a major war happen in the next couple of years. And that's insane to say. You wouldn't
Feel like
say
the
something like that.
opposite though. Like I feel
You
like
really? You
because
think
his
so?
mouth is so he it's not always that he has the wrong message. Sometimes he says very intelligent things, but it's just the way that that message is conveyed. And so it could be one of these things where it's like wasn't like which world war was it where it was like a total misunderstanding and it was just like a sequence of crazy events that like really got everything started. I feel like I don't know, like it's I don't know because if you like, I don't. What was the general that was like talking about how he had to stay up all night hoping that Trump wouldn't like, release the nukes? It was like during some like crazy tell-all or whatnot. So
Uh,
I don't know, but like I do kind of see like the end goal here, where it's like the enemy of my enemy is my friend type shit.
basically.
So
I
I
like.
think that's the whole thing that
I
we're
don't
getting to.
because Trump and Russia were cool. I like. I feel like he's like that big stick type of, you feel me? You know what we could do to you. I'm gonna tell you what we could do to you. I would rather not do that just out the sake of business and how can we and like kind of help each other. I think right, like Biden and them are kind of upping this like tension in Ukraine and kind of tension around the war around the world. Um, with some of the shit that we're sending our money to, and some of the groups that we're funding. So it's just like you see the Democratic Party is a big fan of war right now. Love that shit. Trump's running on an anti-war, not wanting to go to war. So maybe he comes in and stops it. Maybe he doesn't. Like you said, the boy is a little loose at the lips. He might get mad, and you feel me? Just decide he want to shoot missiles at somebody. I don't know. Either way, you pretty much fucked. Either way, both sides want war. If that is
Yeah,
the
I
case,
think
if he is lying,
I don't know. Like I think just in general, neither side is good because war is a big money maker in the US. It sucks
exactly.
that we can make money off of suffering and kind of, damage. But I think I don't know, that kind of goes into our second topic where it's like, these wars cause immigration and people are trying to get from countries that don't have the same access and resources that the US do to the US. So, all right, bet.
Nah,
Were
I
you finished?
agree. Oh, nah, yeah, I was gonna say like you were saying, like it does cause a lot of immigration. A lot of people trying to leave their home nations, just fleeing for safety, fighting for their lives, and we do make just hella money off of it. I mean, from a business model, obviously war is not good. Um, I mean, from a business model, war is great. Got me fucked up. War is amazing, but obviously for a humane society and people, who just don't like to see other people hurt. I feel like that's any like normal person walking around on the street, really. Like it's a sick game. It's a sick game.
All right, welcome back.